Would you like to lead us in prayer?
Father in heaven, we come to you this morning thanking you most of all, Father, for your Son Jesus. Thank you for this day that you've given us, that we can gather here, Father, and conduct the business of the county and these first responders, Father. Pray that you will watch over these first responders as they conduct their jobs. Pray, Father, that you will watch over them as they do that. Pray that you will be with us as we discuss the business here today of the ESD board. And pray, Father, that decisions we make will be pleasing to you. Please watch over us. You forgive us throughout this meeting and throughout this day. Forgive us our sins. In your Son's name we pray.
Amen. Maintaining the pledge to the American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll go ahead and first we want to thank everybody for showing up today, and want to thank Shepherd Fire Department for giving us a facility to host this meeting. We'll go ahead and go into public comment this time. We only have one, Mr. Ray McCoppin. All right.
Well, my name's Ray. Was a county commissioner here. Was in the business I was in was I did a lot of consulting, computer consulting, general consulting for about 40 years. And one night, I'm retired now, and one night I couldn't really sleep, and I got to thinking about this, and I said, well, I've done this kind of stuff before, this, consolidation and tougher things. And so anyway, I threw together, I'm going to say, an outline of some of my thoughts on the plan. And I think y'all may be thinking the same way. I'm just going to offer this up to y'all to peruse, and I'm going to say steal as much as you want if you need it. And other than that, that's about all I have to say on that point. But the other side of it is, and I'm not trying to be super critical, I'm just asking that the board and ESD in general might increase their visibility some. And that point is at least what I found on the internet was this was the budget that was posted on, at least on the internet, and it really lacks, I'm going to say, clarity, integrity, and actual visibility. It's only 8 or 9 line items. That was what was posted that I found. Now, there may be something else out there, but that's what I found. So, other than that, that's all I got to say. And
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ray.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. All right. Moving on to item 3, the district workshop to discuss our outline for ESD steps and plans for protection in the district. We set forth in this endeavor approximately a year and a half ago, and we decided to move in this direction, ultimately starting the search and hiring a fire chief for the county. Whenever we first developed this, these are some of the things that we talked about, some of the reasons and needs for what we was doing, which basically put on a PowerPoint to show just an outline roughly where we come from in this, and moving forward we have an actual outline inside of a Word document. So I'm just going to present what we've got so far as a rough draft that I've put together, and then once I get through it, we'll go back through it item by item, page by page, and then discuss things as a board. Since the ability to make any kind of decisions has been taken from our agenda, we're going to go ahead and we'll just discuss it today as a workshop, and then whatever items that we can come together and agree on, we'll have to re-present it at the next board meeting. Capabilities they're using throughout the certifications and qualifications then they don't know how to do any better. So, like I said, nobody's mad at them. We just have to, whether people like it or not, we have to implement that so we can all come together and we can all elevate together and we can provide the citizens of this county and the taxpayers with a better quality service. So that's the necessary reason for the driver operator search. And that will all be done within 6 months to a year, obviously. Your NIMs, they should have at least 1 in 200, which will be outlined in the other documents that we got provided. Fast B, I can't stress that enough. If something happens and somebody's killed, whether it's a citizen on the road or one of these firemen out here, that could have all been very easily prevented by having this license and this training, knowing what the capabilities is, how to drive these trucks, what's on the trucks, having knowledge of the suspension systems and the air brakes. This is all important stuff for people to know. Your firefighters, this is something that I just threw in there to jog my memory with a PAT, which stands for Physical Agility Test. This doesn't mean that this is the same physical agility test to have that you would need to go out and get a career job at a paid fire department. We're not asking people to climb a 100-foot aerial ladder. We're not asking people to do two rounds on 2 different bottles and just extreme rolling conditions. But right now, it's a fact that we have people that we provided $3,500, $4,500 worth of fire gear and SCBA that cannot wear a mask. They can go into blackout situations. And so we provide them with this gear and we give them a false sense of security that, hey, you're a fireman now because you have this gear. But yet I witnessed it with my own eyes. This fire gear on these people, one, provides the public with a false sense of security that, hey, there's somebody that's going to be able to do what it is that they need to do. And secondly, I've seen and talked with these people firsthand and seen that not everybody that has it has went through some sort of proper training to learn how to do this. And this becomes an extreme liability. But putting on that fire gear and not being in enough physical condition to wear it, but then not having the knowledge on how to use it, it can kill you and it can kill other people. Firefighting is if you look inside of the helmets that are out here in these gear racks and the boots and the jacket and the pants, they all have a great big giant warning label for those that don't know. And it says firefighting is an extremely ultra hazardous, unavoidable, dangerous activity. There's a reason why it says that. And so everybody that joins a fire department, if they're not in physical enough shape to wear the gear or can't wear gear and have a mask on or be blacked out situation, we don't need to be giving them $4,500 a set of gear. Okay, if they fall underneath the auxiliary, we'll get them the jackets and the hats and whatever it is that they need during inclement weather, raincoats, so on and so forth. But everybody doesn't need that gear. And so moving forward, if somebody hasn't already taken the physical agility test, then we need to be doing that before we give these people gear. We don't need to give them gear and then find out later that they're not able to do this. They're not able to go through firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. They need to have the NIMS training as well, the 1 and 2. Not necessarily the 3, the 400, and the 7, 800. That's for the higher up command staff. It would be good to have that, but as a basic starting out, that's where it's at. The safety training, the state offers free training. It's Courage to Be Safe is a big, huge one. And then the National Highway Transportation Safety Act. And there's multiple different agencies that use that training as well. And that's talking about dealing with emergency hazards on roadways. And while the training seems very, very basic and you can pick that up inside of a day sitting in front of a computer, it absolutely saves lives. That training was developed because people died working on the side of roadways, and you cannot assume that everybody just knows this stuff. That's why it should be a mandate, but right now it's not a mandate. And so moving forward and consolidating all the departments will ensure that they have this type of training here. Resource management, countywide scheduling, asset tracking, and software. This is something that the board will have to agree on and decide. We'll talk about it today and put a proposal together and vote on it later. When to work, lab tech, operative IQ, PS tracks. These are all programs out there to track equipment and assets. Every year, we know that volunteerism is declining. We can see with the amount of money that we pay in the volunteer stipends for people that run calls and stuff, that's declining over time. We've heard it from several different chiefs. We're having a decline in volunteerism, but every year we buy the same amount of bunker gear. We spend anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 in bunker gear and personal protective equipment, and we don't have any way to track it, because we can't run the inside workings in the department into each individual department. Once we consolidate, then we'll have access to all this. Everybody that's inside of our system will be on the same program, and when we issue out $4,500 set of fire gear that the taxpayers bought, we'll be able to see where it goes. As we know, every year, each individual station, each individual department loses gear, and some departments use that gear for new members. Other departments don't necessarily get any new members, but then turn around in a couple of years and ask for more gear, and who knows where the last set of gear went. I don't know. I get told sometimes they don't know either. So, tracking, staffing, this will be managed by the fire chief and board or board manager. We should all have access to it to just go in and peek and to look, being board members, but as far as the inner workings of it and actually operating it, I would leave that to the board manager and the fire chief, the assistant chiefs, and the deputy chiefs in order to maintain our asset tracking and where it is that our tax dollars are going. Most fire gear is good for 10 years. That's 10 years of its lifespan, unless it's damaged or broken or anything like that. So for 10 years, for the most part, given the amount of fires that we have, we shouldn't be going through a whole lot of gear. We should be able to reuse this gear and reissue to this gear as people leave and people come in. Also with this software, you'll be able to identify real-time coverage gaps. Right now, for the most part, I believe that everybody in the county, the individual fire departments and such, is using ESO, correct? ESO and EHR. The problem is that the board, taxpayers, has bought these programs for each of these individual departments. Each individual department has their individual admins that have their own logins, and there's only a couple of departments that have given us access to that, even though we pay for it all. There's only a couple of departments that have given us access to it that we can actually see and look into where this is. But the problem is there's been no standardized training. So pretty much sure this is 2025, everybody out here knows about data entry. And the deal with data entry is when you're extrapolating data or running a report on something, it's only as good as the manner in which the data was entered. So if we're going on just an EMS response and somebody codes it as just a lift assist, or if they code it as a EMS response or a fire response, there's different people that are coding and labeling things in different ways that's not accurate, it's not conducive. Whenever we pull data, or can pull data from a couple of departments that we have, to actually see what kind of calls we're running, where we're running them at, what the response times were for them, and where the actual gaps are. So in order to do this effectively, we need to be able to collect data. In order to be able to collect data, we need to all be using the same manner of data entry. And we need to have one person that we pay, which is the fire chief, responsible for it. That's what his job will be. If he doesn't do it, we'll find somebody else. No offense, Brian, but we'll find somebody else that will do the job. And so you'll have that one person, and then you'll have the deputy chiefs and assistant chiefs that will help him facilitate that. And that's where we will get them people, is the people that already have the pre-qualifications, are willing to get them qualifications, and then willing to put in the extra time to assist him breaking it down by district. That way it's not so overwhelming, one person trying to do it for the entire county. We'll have it, and it'll be broke down and delegated into each station's assistant chief. Will make sure their guys are receiving the training that they need to put in the reports, and make sure the reports are completed as the calls are run. And then each deputy chief will make sure that the 5 stations underneath them, or 4 stations, reports are in. And then after a couple of months, we can actually analyze this data and find out where our calls are where our calls have extended call times yet. Calls that are being missed, this is the thing. This is no fault. This is not a slam to any department out there or any fire chief out there. But I've asked 4 or 5 fire chiefs now. The reports that y'all give us every month, as far as station reporting and department reporting, as far as your runs that you have and the run times that you have and the man hours that you have, what are you actually reporting? Are you reporting just only the calls that you go on? And most of them all laughed at me and said, well, yeah, how are we supposed to report a call that we didn't go on? If we didn't go on any calls, we ain't writing a report over it. That's clear. That's fair enough to say. However, we also know that there's calls that go out and nobody's there to answer them up. There's calls that go out, and then we've had other agencies, East Montgomery County, we've had New Waverly, Willis, we've had other agencies come inside of our county and assist with EMS calls or assist with MBAs where there wasn't a fire department on scene. No fault to anybody. Get it. We're volunteer. People have got jobs. People aren't monitoring it 24/7. Okay. There may be 1 or 2 stations. I see some head nodding in the back. There may be 1 or 2 stations that monitor the radio 24/7, and they always have their area covered because they're there 24/7, maybe. But at the end of the day, as a majority, we're not reporting and we're not really tracking. We don't have the wherewithal to track the calls that aren't being made, and we know that they're there. So that's a big one that we need to really be able to do that comprehensive study, or have the chief and his command staff do the comprehensive study, is to have the ability to track the calls and what the needs are of the county. Access to ESO for all stations to ensure compliance, as well as data collection for ongoing comprehensive study. I'll probably be talking up about that. Building a stronger system, respects the tradition while enabling progress. We respect the tradition of how these departments come from and where they come up. You know, this station right here, it's specifically near and dear to me as well. I come up in this department 30-something years ago, 16 years ago, or when I was 16 years old. This is where I got my start as a volunteer. It was built in 1950, 55, thank you, chiefs. The station was built in 1955 by members of the community who seen right here where the freeway was. There was motor vehicle accidents, there were fires. People of the community came together, they raised money, they put up the building, got some vehicles purchased with the help of fundraisers, citizens, the city, and they built it up to what it is today to meet the needs of the calls that are around here. But as we go on and we progress, what we see coming in is an influx as far as community growth and development, economic development. The amount of volunteers that we have and the amount of donations that we have and what we got, and then the standards that we once operated off of need to evolve to be able to meet them needs that are out there. Because as the frequency and the risk increase, so do we. We need to be stepping up our game into that next level, and that's what all this is about. Fair and equal opportunity for all members, and what this states is that basically getting an organizational and a structural chart in a way that we do things across the board. When a person comes in from day one and says, hey, I'd like to volunteer, I have a couple of days out of the week that I don't have anything to do, and I'd like to volunteer my time, and I would like to be a firefighter, and one day I would like to drive the fire trucks, and one day I'd like to be assistant chief. They should be able to know within their first week or two here throughout their training what that process looks like. What that process looks like should be the same over here it is in Shepherd, is the same that it is in Cold Springs, or the same over there that it is in Oakhurst. They should know that, hey, I got to spend so many time, I got to spend 5 years before I can ever be an assistant chief. I need to be here 6 months before I can drive a truck, but I need to have a Class B license, and I need to learn how that truck operates, and I need to be checked off and be proficient in how that truck operates, and then know them things from the start. Right now, sometimes it's just in some departments. Right now, there's departments that are running good, but given time, you'll have it to where it's one person's guess, or it's one person's decision whether they get to do something or don't get to do something, that whether they get to go to training or don't get to go to training. And then as far as the election process in some departments, it's you can come in And once you receive enough votes, you can get to be the chief without any qualifications or certifications. Not all departments run that way, but there are a majority that currently are running that way or have run that way. It's very cyclical. And it just breeds bad culture. And that's implementing this and consolidating and then having someone at the helm and a command staff at the helm. That's going to help to change the culture inside of this county for our community. More effective outcomes for residents. This just, to me, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, especially since I have a camera on me, and there might be people out there that don't know how this is going to be more effective for the residents. Right now, as it sits, when a taxpayer calls 911 for a fire truck, as a guy that's been on the ESD board for 10 years, and we spend $3 million plus, give or take, in taxpayer dollars. It doesn't matter what area they're in, whether they're in Shepherd, Cold Spring, Oakhurst, 980 North, any of them areas. I have to look at these people and tell them, I don't know who's coming. I don't know when they're coming. When they do get there, I don't know that the right truck will be there. When the right truck gets there, I don't know if they're going to be able to successfully do what you need to do. And this isn't a guess. This isn't an opinion. That statement is a historical fact. One of my case in points here is for years we've struggled with this. Shepherd makes a fire right now. This may or may not have happened recently. It may or may not have happened 100 times. Shepherd gets a fire right now, pulls an engine, okay, to go out with a crew of 2 or 3 people. They tone out 2 to 3 neighboring departments. So the engine shows up with firefighters who can pull multiple hose lines off to fight the fire, throw the ladders on the building, do whatever they need to do, right? So we have everything we need as far as equipment on scene. Now what do we need here in our rural county? We need personnel. Okay, that's a big one. And then we need water, because most of the county doesn't have a municipal water supply as far as hydrants located outside of every residence. So we need tank trucks, things that hold 2,000, 3,000 gallons of water. Shepherd pulls their engine, and then the next 1, 2, and 3 departments that show up drive a booster truck with what are the boosters got? 200, 500, 300 gallons? 45 usually. They say, why would you pull a booster truck? Well, we can get there faster. That doesn't help with what we need. What helps with what we need is water. But there's no standard out there to say what it is that we're taking to this cause. So that does a very disservice to the citizens and to the guys that are on scene fighting fire and need more water. What they need is more water. And so that's another thing that this is going to do. So how's the outcome going to be better for the citizens? With standardized training, consolidation, accountability, oversight, qualifications. These things are what's going to bring us up into meet the needs of what it is that the county and the taxpayers need and deserve. So what are the next steps? We host meetings with the department leadership. And so somebody will write this down for me. Amy, I see you have a pen and a piece of paper. We need to make sure to put point blank on there. Met with them the other day. They want to know when and how they are to sign up. Told them they need to bring their department heads and/or command staff, and we need to schedule a meeting with them to bring them aboard at some particular date and time. They just want to sit down with us and the lawyer, I guess, for their 503 and as far as how their board and things are going to work, but they're ready to come on board and consolidate with us as well. So once we hear from them, we'll finalize the legal agreements. What we'll do is we'll sit down together collectively as a board. We'll go through their needs. Every community has specific needs. Cold Springs agreement and Shepherd's agreement is not going to be the same as Point Blank or 980 North. City of Shepherd, they have different set of stakeholders. They have the city who uses taxpayer dollars to put equipment and funding into this station as well. We're going to have to make sure that all the stakeholders are representative as well as the stakes and the taxpayer dollars that are put in place. Everything's equally representative, and everybody's on board with how it is and what it is that we're going to do and what it is that we're going to provide before we pull the trigger on it. And that's where we have, when we pay this guy over here, Mr. Peeler, our lawyer, and if he messes something up or gets something wrong, we'll get rid of him and we'll get another. We'll finalize these legal agreements and then establish the transition teams. And Bear Creek Fire Department was very easy. I believe that Point Blank Fire Department is going to be very, very easy because they have what seemed to be 100% buy-in throughout their membership, throughout their board, and even more so throughout their community. And probably because they were very forthcoming with their communities and what it is, and they believed in the purpose and what it is that we're trying to do here. And they wanted to be a part of it. They want to be a part of something great. That's what they went out and sold their community. So the communities were all behind it. Didn't have a lot of questions. Were real quick to sign. They also didn't have multiple different stakeholders in the city, municipality, and the government and the politics behind things that went into it. So them transitions were a lot easier. Didn't really need any teams. We just needed an ink pen and a few signatures is all we needed for them. Some of the other areas are going to be a little bit more difficult, obviously. We may need to break down and form committees and actually do a transition team, if you will. And then we may, depending on how things go and what the future holds, we may even need to seek some outside consultation, which there's companies out there that this is all they do. They're made up of fire department personnel that have MBAs, that have master's degrees. They're master firefighters. Most of them have worked up through the rank, all the way up to battalion chief, fire chief, assistant chief. And most of these teams, I talked to a guy the other day that just consolidated one of the largest organizations here in Texas, which is South Fair Fire Department, millions of dollars. I'm not going to throw his name out just yet, but they helped work and consolidate that large department and lots and lots of moving parts. And their team is made up with people from all over the country. That's one of the reasons why they're so expensive. They fly people in from all over the country, but all of these people have something to offer, whether they was the fire chief for San Antonio or San Diego or some little small town that's smaller than Shepherd, Texas and Kansas City. But they have the experience and they have the education and they have the wherewithal to be able to do these things and to collaborate and find out what's best, the best way to transition departments and counties and so on and so forth. I believe that we can get it done without doing that, just based off of the participation that we have right now and the members that's in the community, the department heads that we have. But if we did run into a snag and we got to something that was completely over our head, there are answers that are out there. Implement phased consolidation. And so what this looks like is this is something that the board's going to have to break down at a little bit later time. As far as different departments will probably want to be phased in differently, maybe depending on their 503C, 501C. So depending on that, and then as far as our purchasing and things like that, we may need to break that down as we get closer to budget time. I know we have some people out here that have had businesses out here. We've had some other elected officials out here that deal with a budget every year. And I don't know of anybody, unless it's Mike over here, that just gets all happy and excited when dealing with budget and budget time. Most people know that it's very, very stressful. It's very, very cumbersome. There's a lot of moving parts involved in it. But I would venture to say that most people out here in the audience that have dealt with budgets, and most of you fire chiefs out here that deal with budgets, you deal with a budget of one. You deal with your budget. 9, 10 budgets. Crazy. Deal with this many different budgets and this many different meetings. It's hard. And so this is another reason to consolidate right here. Okay? Get things more streamlined, more organized. Let the chief and the command staff and the assistant chiefs from each department get together and present a unified budget to the board to be able to approve on and streamline it. When you have that many different budgets, there's going to be mistakes that's going to be made. It's hard and it's difficult. It's difficult to decide with what. I'm not picking on any of my board members here. Love them all very dearly. But a lot of the board members here, or some of them, maybe it's not even this board, maybe it's the board next year or boards past, maybe don't have any experience whatsoever in the fire and EMS world. And they're judging who needs what and why they need it based on what it is that Pumpkin Evergreen's done and has always done. Well, guess what? Pumpkin Evergreen has different needs than Shepherd. And Shepherd has different needs than Cold Spring. Well, who knows these things? Well, your qualified command staff know these things. And they're the ones that need to be working on it, and they're the ones that need to produce the budget and work with the board on educating them and giving that as a unified group, as a unified budget. We don't have that. When you're relying on people that might not necessarily understand and know the needs of what a fire department in that particular community is, there's a lot of room for error and a lot of room for margin. Or not a lot of room for margin, but a lot of room for error, and it's just not good. So another case in point of why we need the consolidation. Launch countywide training and audit and compliance process. What that's going to look like is that your fire chief and your command staff, your deputy chiefs, your assistant chiefs, they'll get together, obviously, and they'll come up with their standardized training across the board, what it is that we need, and then be able to accurately report where we're actually at. How many people do have a Class B license right now? Well, right now, I don't know. Right now, the fire chief doesn't know. Right now, there may even be some assistant chiefs out there that don't know. Nobody knows. All right. Once we're able to do this, we'll be able to accurately collect the data as far as who all has what, where we're at as a whole. And then once we find out where we're at, we can efficiently move forward into doing this. So this is a quote I like, Matty Stepnick. I don't know, you guys can Google it, look it up or whatever. Pretty interesting young man. Before his death, at the age of 13, he wrote 7 books. And he said, unity is strength. When there's teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved. And that's what we have right now. We have the people that's here that are dedicated and committed to serving their communities and in this county out here, or else you guys wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care about your community. We know that. Now what we need is the unity. To be able to strengthen what it is that we're already all trying to do here and move forward. I know that it's hard and it's difficult for a lot of people to grasp because they haven't seen anything different that's out there. And this is where I come from. I have seen it and I have been a part of it, and not just this area here, but in other areas and other areas that have went through the things that we're going through now, that have made the transition from all volunteer to combination departments that were a paid fire chief and then duty crews and then volunteers as well, and so on and so forth. Dealt with other ESD boards and other county commissioners in different areas, large areas and small areas. And this is something that without the unity and people coming together to collaborate as a whole for a common good, putting the service and the mission before themselves, without that, we're not going to be able to achieve the strength. But if everybody can remember that as we move forward, we make decisions and we transition, learn to lean on each other and trust each other just a little bit, that we're all here for the right reason, we can move forward into what some people view as the unknown and actually do great things. We're going to hold the questions and discussion for now. We're going to move straight into the actual. This was just a basic overview of it. We're going to move into the outline. You said 2 fingers yet? Where'd it go?
What's the best?
Still learning how to use their board.
I see Jeff right there.
Jeff, you ran away from me.
Did you break it, Brian?
No, I just need to minimize down to this and pull up my Microsoft Word.
So, get out of that. Oh. Tell your AI to go away.
Yeah. All right. This one here.
Focus. Yeah.
All right, so this is the part we really need to take notes on. We'll go through the whole entire thing. We'll probably take a recess and a break for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. What's that? No.
Brian.
Yeah.
Install the printer right there. It takes 30 seconds.
We'll probably do that in the break. We'll go through that way everybody can see it. The reason why I didn't print this out is because I didn't want various different renditions. This is just the rough outline and the rough draft. I can't come up here and do just whatever I want. We have to do it consolidated as a board and say that, hey, you're spearheading this. Yeah, I'm at the front of this. I'm the subject matter in this. I know where this needs to go. I've convinced the board, talked to the board. We make decisions as a board into moving forward. So I left this very plain and generic. I'll present it all as it is just to give people an overall concept and idea of what it is that we're looking at. And then we'll come back as a board and then we'll go through and then we'll agree, disagree, add to, take away, do whatever we want so we can tailor it to our specific needs as the community and that each board member has their say-so in it in order to move forward. So the proposal for the department consolidation, executive summary, Jacinto County Emergency Service District proposes the strategic consolidation of all county volunteer fire departments into a single unified fire agency. This initiative will provide citizens with more consistent, professional, and efficient emergency services by embracing accountability, streamlined operations, and shared resources. This plan will modernize the fire protection in this county and better meet the growing needs of our communities. This is just basically talking with the different board members throughout the last decade, and that's that it's pretty similar. The wording is different no matter what county or what city that you go to, but this is the basic vision of every fire department out there. Some of them have 2 or 3 sentences, some of them have a whole entire paragraph. They all basically say this: to enhance the fire and emergency services capability for our citizens by unifying those who have dedicated themselves to public service. That's what it is that we foresee moving forward, and that's the reason for this movement here. The mission statements to protect the lives and property through service before self, accomplished by a unified and dedicated team of paid and volunteer staff committed to our core values. All right, feel free to take notes or do whatever as we come back to it, so jog your memory. Core values, standard, but this is really what's going to be the basis of everything that we do and what we're going to require out of people, whether they're volunteering or whether they're paid by us. If they don't uphold these values, in my opinion, and what I believe the rest of the opinion of the board is, they don't have courage, and that doesn't necessarily mean putting on fire gear and going doing it. That goes for this board as well. If they don't have the courage to stand up and to do the right thing, then it doesn't work. Integrity, upholding honesty and strong moral principles. Commitment, dedicating ourselves fully to our community and the mission. Professionalism, holding ourselves to the highest standards of conduct and performance. A lot of people confuse professionalism with paid departments versus volunteer departments. I do not. I don't think this board does. I think that if a person of this board, and a person out here in this audience, if they can't conduct themselves in a professional manner, then I don't think that this organization and public service is for them. They can't be professional in what it is in their endeavors and what they do and the training that they get and they receive and every little thing they do underneath a patch that has San Jacinto County on it, and that's not for them. Rationale for consolidation, trends in volunteerism and service demands. I've talked a lot on this earlier. Volunteerism across the nation is declining. Call volumes and community expectations are increasing. Inconsistent response capabilities and disjointed operations currently limit effectiveness. This is just a brief summary of some of the things that I've already talked on. And once again, this isn't a dig at any volunteer out there, at any department that's out there. It's just that this is where we're currently at. And in order to take it up to that next step and that next level, we have to consolidate with standards and qualifications and unification. Operational benefits, unified command and control. Span of control aligned with ICS standards. I think for most of you fire and EMS people out there, that's very, very basic. But for those that don't, ICS standards, that's what the fire and the EMS across the country. That's what it is that we base our organizational structure and how we run from a grass fire to a hazardous material spill or a natural disaster. Right now in the Texas Hill Country, right now they're receiving help and aid from all over the state and all over the country. They have people from outside the USA, they have people inside of Texas, and so on and so forth that have come to aid them in a moment's notice, and they're able to plug them into a system and able to put them to work with this right here, the incident command system. It's a national system. And because these people are already trained in that, they can have people from all over be able to work and get on the same page very, very quickly and effectively do work and serve the citizens. And so when you have that inside your own county, as a whole, we'll be able to do the same. Improve response time, centralized coordination, data acquisition, risk management, planning, and resolution. The ultimate one is here at the end, the risk management, plan, and resolution, but you can't get that one. I mean, that's the key. That's how we get that. But you can't get that without this right here. If you can't acquire the data, then you can't be coordinated centrally with everybody on the same page. Enhancing safety and training, I spoke on that earlier. I don't really want to beat that one up too much, but county-wide SOG and consistent credentialing as far as your standards go, and making sure that everybody's on the same page and has that basic level of safety training and firefighter training. Or if you have chief officers, your assistant chiefs and your deputy chiefs, them guys that don't already have their command and control, their strategies and tactics. Classes like that will be provided in-house by our fire chief, the command staff that already has it. Myself, for many years, I've always been willing to come up and to share and teach and donate my time in that capacity as well. And then we have other people that are wanting to join up as well that even have instructor 3 level certifications that can really come in and facilitate a whole lot of classes as well. So we're not asking for all these things, but not being able to provide them to people. Reduce liability and risk, fewer injuries, that's huge. Equipment losses through oversight and standardized procedures. With training qualifications performed, we can better protect our citizens while providing a safer environment for our fire and EMS personnel out there. So I know a lot of people right now in the public out there, there's a lot of people that think that, hey, the ESDs out here and moving forward with this consolidation to hurt the fire departments, to hurt the communities. But this whole entire thing has been an effort to help not just the citizens and the taxpayers out there, but to help all these people out here that have been dedicating their time and their energy and their efforts to give them the equipment, the resources, the training, the educations that they need to be able to do their job safer and more efficiently. That's what this is all about, is to be able to help them do that. Resource optimization, shared personnel, apparatus, scheduling, to fill in gaps in coverage. So when we talk about scheduling, there's a lot of fire departments that are around us, both volunteer and paid, that use scheduling software. I know of one department that's probably a little bit above the rest of them as far as the amount of personnel and people that they put at their station. Shout out to Pumpkin Evergreen right now. They staff their station a lot, and they also have a station that allows for staffing, and it has crew quarters and living quarters and things like that. So as we move forward and we build different stations, once we have the data that we need to find out where our coverage is actually needed, and we have a station here in Shepherd that would actually accommodate people spending the night and actually staffing the station, I believe we're going to get a lot more response from people that are able to staff these stations and to do that. Right now, there's not necessarily there, but in the future, as we go there, or during the event of a major weather system moving through, usually once or twice throughout the year, we'll have a major weather system move through. The department heads, fire chiefs, assistant chiefs call in their members and say, hey, we know that we got 10 to 20 inches of rain coming through. We know which creeks and which bayous are going to flood. We know where our target hazards are because they're on top of their game, doing what it is that they're supposed to do. That, and they have the history of their community, right? And so they bring all their people into the station. Well, as a fire chief, or even through a perspective of the Office of Emergency Management. It'd be very nice to pull up scheduling to see, hey, when we're going in to pre-plan this without having to have all these different meetings, they can go in, they can get a report from the fire chief, and the OEM calls up the fire chief and says, hey, who do you got and how many personnel do you have and where do we see that our problems are going to be? The fire chief would say, hey, stand by a second. He can pull up and he says, hey, I have 2 engines and booster staffed over here on the south end of the county, and then over here I have a boat crew that's already staffed. It looks like they're going to be staffed for 2 days, but then we don't have anybody staffed. And so they'll be able to access this in a moment's notice instead of the 15 to 20 phone calls and all the guessing that goes on. We actually have a system in place. The only way to get that consistent is through consolidation. You'll be able to share personnel, apparatus as needed, obviously. Some things that, like if the city of Shepherd donates or they say, hey, we're going to go ahead and buy these guys a brand new tanker for $750,000 or $250,000. They don't want their tanker leaving the city. It's understood. But the things that are bought with all of the county's money from the ESD, if we buy a second tanker for Shepherd up here, and the north end doesn't have any tankers, or they have a tanker that goes down because of whatever reason or another, we have an uncovered gap over there. Our chief recognizes it. Lets the deputy chief know, hey, you and the deputy chief from the south or the north, you guys get together and figure out how we can fill these gaps with apparatus and then report back. And then we're not left with open gaps and uncovered areas of equipment. We don't have to go through any hoops or any games or upsetting anybody because we're moving equipment. So all this equipment in this entire county was all by taxpayer citizens. So with the exclusion of municipal-owned equipment or shared municipal-owned equipment, we will be able to share that and to be able to fulfill the needs of the county and the communities that were called when we signed up to protect them. So proposed process for consolidation, step 1, we talked a lot about this earlier. We'll just briefly go through it. Each department voluntarily agrees to consolidate into the Jacinto County ESD. Legal integration. Jacinto County ESD 1 leadership collaborates with each department. Legal counsel, Beaver and Gisburn. Assignment agreements, transfer of property and equipment and assets, which most of all of these things, in one way, shape, or another, was all purchased by taxpayer dollars. Whether that was the city of or the county of, it was all taxpayer dollars. I don't know all the legalities and how that works. That's why we lean strongly on Mr. Peter over here, who has a law degree and is practicing law with a law firm that deals specifically with ESDs and ESD laws. That's what they do. They know the ins and outs of the ESDs and the laws and how counties and municipalities and these things work and what's legal and what's not legal. And that's why we're going to rely on them to make a decision. If you'll notice in the board meetings in the past, when it comes down to it, I don't need to know all the inner workings of law. I don't need him to give me a lawyer's class in an hour's time trying to tell me why it is that something's the right way to do things. I'm just going to ask him, is this legal or not legal? Am I going to go to jail or not go to jail? So that's why we have him to consult with that. Let him, once we make the decision, once we decide to move forward, Mr. Peeler is on the hook over here. If he does something that's against the law, he will go to jail and not us or any of us out here. Right, Mr. Peeler?
We're going to avoid that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, transition of 501c3s, entities to local associations. That's what a lot of people think that they want out there. They want to be able to keep, that's what we suggested that we do, is going into a local association as far as Shepherd Firefighters Association, transferring the 501c to that, okay, versus doing what a lot of people think they want, which is to remain a nonprofit corporation, as discussed. That's a good thing in theory because nothing changes, everything stays the same. But now the problem becomes, as you dance around the fine line, you got to make sure that you're not representing yourself as your own entity in the fire department anymore when you're soliciting for donations or anything else, because that crosses a lot of legal boundaries and a lot of borders that it's just going to be dicey. And without a class and probably an hour-long presentation of how you do and how you don't do these things, you could find yourself getting into some legal trouble.
Excuse me.
We don't want that.
Could you give us an example of that, please?
An example of which?
Of dancing around as Brian was
The
saying.
entities of local association taking a fire department's 501c and
Donations
making a
versus-
members association with it
Yes.
versus keeping it as is.
Sure. Well, okay. First of all, we don't advise volunteer fire departments in general. That's outside of our expertise. Most of the districts we've worked with who have gone through a transition, the volunteer fire department has chosen to wind down business. They don't want to have to do their reports to Secretary of State. They don't want to have to do their IRS filings. They want to just do firefighting and training, and they wind down. The ones who have transitioned, the concern I raised in a conversation with Commissioner May was that our concern is that there are people who want to maintain a 501c for some purpose to do fundraising. And what he's talking about is that if the 501c is no longer contracted by the ESD to be the fire department, then I would be very concerned if they're sending out fundraising solicitations that they are potentially presenting a confusing message to the public as if they are still a fire department. But that's not something I police. That's not something the ESD board polices. That's something that if they potentially defraud someone to get a donation as if they're still a fire department and they're not, that's between them, the IRS, and law enforcement.
And as we'll see a little bit later throughout here, we'll talk about some of the things. I spoke with a chief the other day who actually gave me a lot of insight and brought some things to my attention that I was basically just kind of flying over a few people's heads out there and just not really grounded to what it was that people were actually grasping or how they was grasping this as far as the donations of money in their local communities. It was brought to my attention that there may be stations or department out there that don't have the trust in the ESD financially, that if they receive a $10,000 check from John Q. Citizen that says, hey, do you have guys, does all your fire trucks have, let's just say, AEDs on it? And you say, no, they don't all have it, just our first out truck has an AED. They said, well, we would like to generously donate, $10,000 so all the trucks in our area, let's say Point Blank, and all the Point Blank area, all the trucks in our community has AEDs, we would like for them to go on here. Who do I make this check out to? Well, at that time, they could say, hey, you make it out to San Jacinto County ESD, you fill out this form here, what did it's for, so on and so forth. This board, it would be illegal for us to take something that somebody donated to us in good faith, that we were going to, if they specified that, hey, I want this to go to my community over here, it would be illegal for us to take them funds and to do something different with it. Fill out that form and that paperwork, and that money is earmarked to put 5 AEDs on 5 trucks in the Point Blank area. That's what we would do with it. We wouldn't turn around, and I think that there are some people out there that may think that, oh, well, if we have our annual fundraiser and the money that comes to our station, the ESD is going to take our money and we're going to go give it to Shepherd. They like Shepherd better, so we're going to go give all your money that your community give to the Shepherd station over here. That's unethical. That's illegal. It's immoral. It's all the things that goes against our core values and principles. You have all this on record, on tape of us saying these things, and this is what it is that we do. We wouldn't do that.
Yeah, an example, again, some other districts that have gone through transition, when the concept of cash on hand for the volunteer fire departments is discussed, it can be earmarked to go to a specific area. I remember most of the districts we worked with only had one fire department, so it's very different than your situation. But using this district as an example, your 9 departments, as they were to transition, if, and I'm just making it up, who's the green right there?
This is Shepherd.
Okay, easy. So say Shepherd has $15,000 in a bank account that was donated for AEDs, like you said, and they do want to participate in the transition and consolidation and provide the assets over to the district, then the assignment agreement would have a line item in the list of assets that the money that was earmarked for AEDs would come over to the district, but it would still be earmarked for AEDs. It'd be a contract. So if the district spent that money in another way, that's fraud.
Right. All right, we'll get to this. We'll take a small break, and then we'll finish up the rest of it, and then we'll go through and we'll start taking it line item by line item to the board. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. I promise, Mike. This is a big one here. We talked about earlier about not wanting to come in. This isn't an effort to come in and to put our flag on everything. It's completely rebrand everything. Pull the patches and the murals off of the walls and take patches off the shirts. Stations will be able to retain their identity as far as the Camilla station or the Shepherd station. The patches that you guys come together as a board 20 years ago, and everybody in the fire department put lots of time and effort and energy into designing your patch and what it means to be from the Shepherd area or the Camilla area or the Point Blank area. All these things, we're not looking to come in and do a complete rebrand here. You guys keep your patches, you keep the names on the side of the building and the truck. We'll find out what the legal requirements are, and if it's only 1-inch letters that's got to be on there that says San Jacinto County ESD 1, then that's what we're going to put at the bottom of the door or the bottom of the fire truck, if anything. Hang on one second, Mike. You wanted the break. I'm going to get you a break. Hang on.
No, I got a question about
Yeah.
what you just said.
Yeah.
That most of their patches say Shepherd VFD, but they wouldn't be Shepherd VFD anymore.
Right. Well, we can
They
take
would be Shepherd.
we can figure out the legalities of that, whether they can just keep the patch and they'll be legally excluded from that under whatever it is that we do, or we take off the VFD and just leave Shepherd. And we're all easy fixes. All members or current command staff retained based on qualification, experience, and tenure. We kind of outlined what them qualifications and experience are. Some departments already have them in place. Have done a really good job. And luckily, their fire chiefs have been fire chiefs for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and have received this training. Those that don't, okay, they'll be given a little bit of time. Now, those that do, to my suggestion to the fire chief, and I'm going to kind of leave we'll talk more about this as a board here in a little bit, but picking this command staff and stuff throughout the board, we're going to leave that. The board will approve everything, obviously. As far as picking the command staff, the fire chief needs to do that and pick his command staff, because if this thing goes south and it doesn't turn out good, it's going to be him that picked the right people or the wrong people.
Brian, there's one specific item that's not on that line.
What's that?
That's the physical testing. Current command staff were retained based on qualifications, experience, physical, and tender.
Right. So as we move forward, we're looking at a 6 to 12 month kind of grace period, if you will, to get any of them fire chiefs out. Right now, to my knowledge, we have probably less than half of the departments out there have the people that already meet our qualifications. The other people don't. The fire chief will meet with the command staff and these people from these departments. As long as their mission and their vision line up with what ours is, that's the first check. So if they're willing to do self before service, service before self, and they're willing to keep our core values, and they're willing to go through and obtain these qualifications and standards and trainings and have a good attitude, they're good to go. They're welcome to come on board with us. Your deputy chiefs, though, over the north and south, to start this thing off, I would really like to see if we have viable candidates, which I think we have viable candidates in both districts, the north and the south. We utilize these chiefs that have the years of experience, that already have the certifications, so on and so forth. We give them a shot at it first to go ahead and to see if they can work with inside of this structure and help take us where we need to be. But everybody will be given time. We're not coming in here saying, oh, you don't have it, bye-bye. No, we want everybody that wants to volunteer and serve. We want to bring them in with open arms, and we want to give them the tools that they need to be successful and plenty of time to do it. Dispatch and scheduling. Dispatch will occur by station number. This I have an asterisk beside it because it's something that we need to talk about, and it really dives off into the weeds a little bit. Talking about proximity dispatching in the future, and things like that, via that we don't have a CAD right now. That's going to be a little bit difficult. Modern scheduling and resource tracking platform will be implemented and managed by the ESD. Proximity dispatching is a particular model that assigns the closest assigned and staffed apparatus in relation to a call geographical area, as well as the station that the area is particularly in. So if we see somebody that's in the Bear Creek area that's staffed, or in the Camilla area that's staffed, and Shepherd isn't necessarily staffed on the schedule per se, even though the MBA's in Shepherd, we're still going to dispatch Shepherd to it. But because we don't show any current staffing in it, knowing that we have staffing standing by the neighboring district, we're going to roll them too. If Shepherd shows up and has a crew of 2 or 3 and they go out, they're going to respond on the call. This other call is going to keep 1, 2. That's what we call redundancy. Okay, 3 is 2, 2 is 1, 1 is none. That Shepherd shows up and it's just a small minor MBA on the side of the roadway or pulled into the parking lot. They show up, they establish command, and then they disregard any other incoming units saying engine 161 is on location and be assuming Page Street command. All the units will handle from here. You return to service. But if they don't show up and they're not coming, somebody's already coming. One of our other resources is already coming. So that's what proximity dispatching looks like.
That's going to be the hard part, to get dispatch to do that.
Yes, I agree. But we'll tackle that once we tackle this. Organizational structure and chain of command, leadership. You have the fire chief, as you seen the org chart a while ago. County Wide Authority. That goes without saying. All right. Deputy chiefs, 1 per district. We'll call it north and south for now. My elbow. Thanks. Yeah. Assistant chiefs, 1 to 2 per station, depending on that station's need. That's up to the fire chief and the command staff to figure out what it is that they need inside of there. Captains, lieutenants, driver operators, firefighters, auxiliary, all that's managed down to the local in-house station level. Which brings me to another topic here. I know a lot of members and people out there are worried, like, what's this going to do for us? Well, theoretically speaking, not much for the regular members inside the station, with the exception of the benefits. Not much should really change. You're still going to be dealing with the chiefs that you've been dealing with in most cases, and the command staff, and they'll be reporting down to them the changes that are coming and assuring them of the direction that we're moving forward. They're still going to have the same people that they've been working with before, not coming in to shake everything up and take everybody out of place. Governments and oversight, organizational changes are subject to the fire chief recommendation and board approval. Oversight includes performance evaluations, accountability systems, and ongoing training standards. And then this is just the basic level of standards that we have out there for now. We can talk about this and hash this out later. Obviously, the fire chief, we've already hired him. He has all of these things right here and then some. I didn't want to convolute it and just jumble up this page with all his qualifications. But the deputy chief needs to have at least 5 years experience. I'd really like to see that in the chief officer role. Who better to know? And when we go forward, move in these directions, and then offer them that training for chief leadership and the roles and strategies and tactics, it's really going to click to them, because they're going to be looking at this information and sitting in these classes, and they're going to say, wow, I've been dealing with these issues for years, and now this makes sense why it is. But you take a same guy that maybe he's only 2 years in the fire department, but he's in the chief or hasn't been in the chief role for a period of time, he's not going to know about half of what the stuff they're in there talking about is. But the chief that's been in there 5, 10, 15 years, this stuff's going to be very easy and quick for them to pick up on. Driver operator, same thing. Now, I did put in here not necessarily a firefighter 1 position, because I don't know. I know at one time, years ago in Shepherd, we had people here that were driver operators that only drove the fire trucks. They ain't putting on no gear. They ain't fighting no fire. But I can promise you this, maybe not all of them, some of them though, were really, really good at driving the truck. We're very, very safe. Most of them had experience driving big trucks and handling and driving equipment like that. Most of them had experience just in the equipment world in general, and could get water out of the truck and do all the things that we needed to do. But if that's all they want to do and they're volunteering their time, and they can be an effective member inside of our organization, my opinion, why not use them? Let's just make sure that we have the required training for that particular role. And we don't turn around down the road and say, okay, well, we really need somebody in the back, you're going to the back. If they're only listed and classified as a driver operator, then that's all that we use for. This is where that scheduling software comes back in. When you're actually scheduling things or building your rosters or whatever, in the position of fire chief, assistant chief, driver operator, captain, or firefighter, these people have to be qualified to plug them in on the schedule in them particular roles. And once they're built in the system and they have a particular qualification, if you tried to move them up into the assistant chief role and they didn't have them things, don't have the designation of that particular grade, they're not going to be able to even fit into the schedule. That's going to help prevent that. And that's just another built-in option that's in that scheduling software that's really, really good. Bump it all the way down to firefighter. Before they do anything, they need to have their NIMS 1 and 200. All right, knowing how this whole system works and how the chain of command works and how span of control works and what their role is and what it is that they need to do and how to function inside of the organization. Everybody needs to have courage to be safe. Okay, I'm going to tell y'all something real quick, get off on a little side story. You can count on the clock 60 seconds or less. I was in an area the other day inside this county, I won't mention names. A POV comes screaming past me with lights and siren. Pulled over on the side of the road. Was not far from the fire station. They were probably doing an excess in the area that was 25 miles an hour or less. They were going probably about 75 miles an hour. They came sliding up into the station where the engine was already pulled, the lights on, waiting on them. This person was a chief officer for this department. They got out of their truck and they hopped in, and everybody had already been waiting there for them, obviously. So they pull out on the road and they're going to a fire that's just over here in the Shepherd area. And as this fire truck drove by, the back windows was down. It's driving out, gas pedal down, and I noticed two firefighters standing in the, or one firefighter, what looked like maybe a second one, but for sure one on my side was standing up, getting dressed as the fire truck is moving down the road. This is 2025. Firefighting is extremely dangerous, ultra hazardous, unavoidable activity. But in 2025, no firefighter should die because they wasn't wearing a seatbelt. None. It takes about 10, 15 seconds if you got a few extra pounds on you and you're a little slow like myself. You put on your pants, put on your hood, put on your coat, get in the seatbelt. We pay thousands of dollars for all of our trucks to have air packs built in the seat. You know why they're built in the seat? So you can put them on and get them adjusted and get them all fastened up, put all of your things on while driving down the road, safely secured in the seatbelt. So my problem is not with the firefighters in the back. More of my problems are within the driver that was driving that truck should have looked over their right shoulder and looked at firefighter B. Firefighter B, and the officer that was riding in that front seat, the chief officer of the department, should have been looking over their left shoulder to look at firefighter C before they ever pulled off that path. But if they didn't, which means that they're just incompetent, or they did and they know they're doing it, which I would expect to be the latter of the two, just based off of bad culture, because why? That's what we've always done. These are the kind of things we've got to get past, and that's why this has got to be taken seriously. If we don't have a command staff and a structure with accountability and oversight, it's only a matter of time. We're going to roll the dice, and we're going to wind up with a very, very preventable death on our hands, or a series of deaths on our hands. Technology, resource management, we done talked about all of that as far as scheduling software and asset tracking, being able to track that gear when we get this, spend taxpayer dollars on different pieces of PPE, gear, and equipment, making sure this stuff's not just walking off, because too many times we as a board, we keep providing gear and money and funding to the station. We know they haven't gotten any more members, yet we're providing more and more PPE, gear, and equipment, and I'm just expecting to walk into a room one day and just walk in, there's like 500 sets of bunker gear in there, $4,500 a piece. But I've yet to see that. Everybody that I know still has their gear in their lockers and just enough, but we keep providing more and more, and that's every year. This stuff's supposed to be good for 10 unless it gets burned up or damaged on call. So, in conclusions and call to unity, this proposal is not just about merging agencies. It's about building a stronger, more resilient emergency service system that the citizens of this county can rely on. Through unity, training, professional accountability, we can better protect our growing communities while honoring the spirit of volunteerism and the service that built our legacy that we have right now. A lot of these people that are out here that have already been serving for years, that could come in before, after the people that served before them. We're just taking it to the next level is what we're going. That's what this is about. So we have the next steps, schedule the department leaders, distribute the memorandum of understanding drafts, or what do we call it?
Right now, we're using assignment agreements.
Assignment agreements is the legal term. Begin legal review and customization of assignment agreements. Each department has a whole different set of stakeholders and a whole different set of communities and needs. Each one of them will be tailored to that department during the transition phase. And then initiate the consolidation timeline. When we come back, I want to thank Oakhurst Volunteer Fire Department. They're one of the few, there was one more, I know for sure, but they're one of the few fire departments that actually consolidated, as well as, I believe it was with them and the Fire Chiefs Association, who probably represents most of our departments out there. They provided us with comments, questions, and concerns on this consolidation process. Throughout the year, it's illegal, for those of you that don't know, for me to talk to multiple different board members out there outside of the Open Public Meeting Act, which is what we're at today. So a lot of these questions and answers has been answered by legal staff here on the legalities of things, and then other things have been answered on my behalf. But now we're going to get a chance here in a minute to go through and to go around each board member and find out where they stand on this, so we can better consolidate these questions and answers and find out what our official stance is on this going forward. So I say we go ahead and take a 10-minute recess, or 9 minutes. We're at 11:51. We'll meet back in here at noon time. So as we go down, we're just going to kind of present it, and if you guys want to as a board, we can take it item by item and discuss it, and then come back to our original part of the proposal and go through each one of them items, but for the sake of time, we'll probably just start here and I believe it's further down.
Later, yeah.
But a lot of these questions that they ask, I've talked to multiple different fire chiefs out there, and Oakhurst is pretty spot on, as well as I talked with Chief Fred over the Fire Chiefs Association, and a lot of they have the same questions and things as well. So why should our department cease operations as a corporation, and why should we transfer all assets and personnel to ESDs? So Mr. Peter pointed out that's one possible version of the agreement. It assumes that the volunteers personnel want to focus solely on training and emergency responses, but do not want to have to deal with the business issue or the business aspect of it anymore. They can transfer everything to the ESD, will now handle the utilities, the supplies, maintenance, repairs, which we kind of already do in a roundabout way. This is just going to take one layer off of them and really put it on the deputy chiefs and just assistant chiefs. And once it's streamlined, it'll be a lot easier for them. Some volunteer fire departments choose to do more hybrid, transfer their assets to the ESD to manage, and then have all personnel come under the ESD fire chief, command staff, and maintain the corporation in a role as supporting role rather than providing emergency services. That would let the corporation still solicit donations and hold fundraisers to support emergency services. Typically, most of the money raised would go to the ESD, but it would be earmarked for the area of the station and where the volunteer fire department was the provider. So, is there anybody on the board that disagrees with this?
Just that you mentioned about their billing, and that their billing funds that they receive.
Right. Well, they would.
That they bring.
Okay. So my understanding is there would be no more. They would still do their report. They would still do everything the way they was. They would still bill for it, but it would come back to the ESD.
Yeah, but they still have their 501, it would come back to them.
But they're not operating as their own entity. So when you're talking about a unified organization, you can't be unified and then ununified.
Oh,
So
I
there-
want everyone in here to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so the way
No,
we're,
that's what I just said.
yeah, the way we're
Yeah.
planning it is every department that comes under the ESD umbrella would stop sending out separate billing. The billing would come from the ESD fire department. I mean, you can't bill for service that you didn't do. So and I'm gonna use Shepherd as a reference because we're sitting here. I'm not trying to put any pressure on anyone that you have to do anything. I'm just gonna use it because it's easy to remember. If Shepherd Volunteer Fire Department's personnel, equipment, etc., comes under the ESD umbrella as the ESD station in Shepherd, then when they respond to a call, the billing would be from the ESD Fire Department. It would not be from Shepherd Volunteer Fire Department 501c3.
The funding to the ESD would go in the general fund, correct?
Well, that would be up to you as a board to decide.
That's how we would decide it.
You could say that it
So
goes
just to
to the
save
Shepherd area or into your general
To
fund.
save everybody a lot of time, just so you can see what this looks like. The fire department's out there and the fire chiefs and the captains and the people that are filling out these reports under the ESO software or whatever it is that we're using, it would be, we would be billing. They would just be station 13 or station 16 doing their run report, which in turn would turn around and get billed by the ESD1 fire department. The money would come back, and what that looks like at the end of the day, if Pumpkin Evergreen runs 75% of all the MVAs out there, and they have a large portion of the money and the billing that is coming back out here, when we start getting into budget time, June, July, August, moving into October, we actually do it fiscal year, right? So when it comes time to do budgeting, the fire chief and the command staff, the district chiefs and the assistant chiefs get together. Obviously, they're billing and they're putting that out there, and they're receiving, the county is receiving the money and the funding back. As a whole, they're going to collaborate and find out that, okay, we're going to take some of this billing money, so they'll bring and present to the board, obviously, and said, hey, we need some new JAWS equipment. Well, it would only stand to reason if these guys over here, or Shepherd, is doing 70% of the extrication, and they need some more, and they're been the ones billing for it, and been the ones receiving the money on behalf of the ESD. It would only stand to reason that that's where the funds are going to be used to provide that equipment to those guys that are actually running it. And so that's going to come down to your fire chief and your command staff, and they'll put all that together. They'll figure all that stuff out amongst themselves through collaboration, the chiefs meeting, and then they'll bring that proposal to the board, which will actually alleviate some of the board problems that we've had in the past before with our budget years of us coming together as a board, boards past and boards future that may or may not know anything about fire and EMS, going through and going through the budget items and earmarking money and developing the budget only to get to the end of it and not really a lot of representation out of a particular area or a particular department. So we kind of give them what's left over or what we think they need, but not really having the information or the data behind it to make an accurate decision. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. The way I see it, and this is me, the money that they get from donations, fundraising, and so forth, from their all auxiliary, let's call it, for their department or their station will come to the ESD or be held separately, but for some way or another, we have to channel that money into that station. And it should be channeled into that station.
Absolutely.
So that if they give it to us, and it's going to be somewhat of a bookkeeping nightmare, and I apologize, Denise, but we have an account or a line in the books that says Shepherd funds. Okay, and that's where that money goes, into that line. Now it all goes into the big pot, but it goes in the books
Right.
on that line. And each station will have that line, the funds that they have brought in through fundraising and such. The billing doesn't matter. We bill it. The ESD fire station bills it. It comes to us for the operation of all departments. Now, if a station is running 75% of the calls and running 75% of the MVAs, and they need 7 sets of jaws and can demonstrate the need, we will get them 7 sets of jaws, regardless of which station the money comes from. We will fund the need, as we've tried to do always in the past.
Right.
If you need it, we'll find the money. If you want it, we'll talk about it.
So let me just alleviate. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the money, where does the money go? The money that they give us, their funds, the cash they have on hand, will be in that Shepherd's funds or Pumpkin's funds or Kate funds or whoever's funds, and that's earmarked. Now, when something special needs to come up for that station, we use those funds.
Right. It's actually a lot easier than that as far as anytime that there's a donation. Let's say Chief Rodriguez gets a member of his community comes and says, hey, I want to donate $10,000 and ensure that funds are put into this area right here, and I want AEDs and then the animal rescue mask put on y'all's trucks. We have a lot of pet owners around here that would like to see that. Then he says, oh, sure, let me get you this form real quick. Donate this and turn this into the ESD office. He turns it in. We just strictly put it underneath donations and with a quick note on it. But as soon as that money comes in, it would just be beneficial if that person or that donator already has a specific thing in mind. As long as the board approves it, we're not going to turn around and put, something that would be harmful or not, part of emergency services on our truck. As long as the department heads are good with it, they bring that to us, and then we turn around and then just say, yeah, we'll go ahead and put it in here. We'll write you a check tomorrow, find out where you can spend this $10,000. Maybe it costs $12,000, and the board finds out that, hey, this is a good thing. We'll see your $10,000. We'll give you the other $2,000 to go with it, so that this area right here can have that. And then as far as everything else goes and the inner workings of it, that's not so much as it is but sure, the board needs to look at it and approve of it, but the board meets once a month. And most of the board here, we're not on fire departments, we're not, don't know the inner workings of it. That's what it is the job of the fire chief, the deputy chiefs, and assistant chiefs to determine how that budget is prepared and brought and proposed to us. And then we can go through it as we need to and move things.
But for funds, they're talking about their assets.
Right.
And talking money, they're
Right.
what do we do with our money? And that money is earmarked for them. Money that comes from their community is earmarked from them in funds. So if there's something special they need, that they want, and donation forms,
Right.
and that's the kind of place where we bring that money from. Their specific station needs for their community.
Right. So the question is, though, for a lot of them, is, so let's say they get 50,000, how will they have access to that 50,000?
They don't. But it's there for them.
So who would dictate that?
The chief, the deputy chiefs,
Yes.
the assistant chiefs.
It gets approved through us.
It gets approved through the board.
Approved through us, but they
So
come to us and say, we need that 50,000 for Cold Spring or
During their transition, if they have $50,000 in the bank right now, let's say Shepherd has $50,000 and they want to sign with us tomorrow and come over and consolidate. When they consolidate, that's what the whole reason why we pay a lawyer to make sure everything's done legally. And when they come over that $50,000, when we put that in a spot, and Mr. Peeler and his team can help us do that as well to make sure that it's done in their in a legal manner. But that money can be earmarked as a $50,000 for Shepherd Fire Station.
Right.
And then the fire chief basically collaborates with the deputy chief and the assistant chief of Shepherd Fire Station here would collaborate with his deputy chief and fire chief and say, hey, I want to spend my $50,000 on picket fences all the way around the station. The fire chief's going to say, no, that doesn't really serve our community. Let's do it again. Then the assistant chief can come up and say, well, I think we could really use some money to go into our station and to add on crew quarters or put towards a new station or something that's going to benefit the community. They collaborate together. And then instead of the assistant chief having to come over and attend all the meetings and the fire chief comes and says, I met with my command staff and the deputy chief and the chief of Shepherd, and this is what we want to do with it. They pitch it to the board. We maybe ask a few questions, maybe not ask a few questions if it's pretty clear, cut and dry, and we move on.
Right, so I get that process. What I'm asking, there's some departments that have literally been saving money for years to get to something. And then they sign over all their money, and then they come to say, hey,
They've been saving it to get something.
to get to
Here, let him finish.
to purchase, to do
Okay.
training,
I
whatever
just
it
was
is,
trying to
right?
clarify what you said.
And then they come to us because they signed over all their money to us, and then we turn around and say, oh, no, we don't agree with that process.
That's the point. They don't come to us.
No, we're gonna, remember, we're gonna approve it.
We're gonna
That's
approve
what I'm
it.
saying.
Wait, I know, but the station doesn't come to us. The assistant chief,
When I say they,
Yeah.
I mean, they talk to the
Okay.
assistant chief.
I know-
they talk to
I know
the
where
deputy
you're
chief,
going.
They talk
Okay.
to us. They
so,
come to us and we say, hey, no, we don't agree with what y'all been saving for
well,
10
no,
years.
if all those people come to us and say, we need it to spend on stuff that benefits the community, that's kind of at our station, they come to us and say, there's no way in hell that we will deny it.
See how we handle it.
You,
I don't see how
and
we-
here's the deal too,
everybody-
just for those people out there in TV land and the people sitting in the audience. I've had the privilege and the experience to be on this board for the last 10 years. I've worked with Commissioner Eldridge here the last couple of years, not just as a board member, but in the fire and the OEM world, and then Derek and then Tammy and Mike over here. And I don't see anybody on this board coming, and the fire chief and the assistant chief and deputy chief come to us and say, hey, we really want to upgrade our station, or we want to put blitz fires on our trucks out here. And this is why we want to do it, because we can free up a man and we can be at a more strategic advantage in the firefighting world or in our station and in our living arrangements. As long as it benefits the needs of the community, I really don't want a whole lot of micromanagement from the board alone. This fire department's out here, the assistant chiefs and the deputy chiefs and the people that are out here every single day in these fire stations running the calls at 2 a.m. And once the structure is set up, we can have faith and trust inside of this structure and command staff and this organizational chart, and with the training that these guys are going to have, that some of them already have and those that don't are going to have, we can have faith that they're going to make good decisions to do the things with the money, be good stewards of the money for the taxpayers, and to serve them and their communities. And so without us diving too much off into what it is they're doing, that's up to the job of the fire chief. Now, like we said once before, if the fire chief is not doing that, not doing a good job, being that the volunteers, underneath him, we'll work with him to get him up to speed. And if not, then we'll find somebody that will.
Right, I get that.
But I have confidence in them and then in this system, because this is the system that is proven to work throughout the country.
Yeah, and like he said several times, it's usually for one or two departments. This is bigger. There's not one or two departments. And I just want to ensure that the board understands that some of these departments are bringing over a lot of money. They've worked hard for it, and that they have goals. And we're not. I know for myself, I'm not going to stop what they've been trying to do.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, and that's part of what I said about the transition and the transition teams. When a fire department, like saying we've got a schedule here today, well, we can't schedule it today. We'll talk about it today and take action on it at the next meeting. But we have to schedule. Eventually, we have to schedule a meeting with Point Blank to go over their transition process, because they've already agreed to transition. And so whatever money that they have into their account, I anticipate the fire chief being there as part of the transition as well, Mr. Fiedler being there as far as our transition team and the board as a whole. And we're gonna talk about these things and these areas of concerns, and they might not have any money in their
Well, there's
account.
one more area I have concerns here. Back to this billing. I think the department's billing,
Can we
whatever they
finish
bring
one
in,
topic before we
it's the
jump to
same
another?
topic. It's compared to donations. The department brings in, it goes to them. I feel their billing should be the same way. They bring that billing in, it should go to their account to be used with their needs. Just as the donation.
There, wait a minute, Timmy, I think you're missing something here. Their needs are the community needs.
That's correct.
Okay. There is no their needs. It's our needs.
So how can it be no their needs if we're talking about donations? It's their needs.
No.
I think that
You're
we've already,
offering that money for the department. Is what's going on.
Donations we put there.
I really think that we've already covered this and as before as an entire board, and I got a lot of head nods out of it, that whenever somebody bills in a particular area, that's going to reflect at the end of the year by the data in the call volume. If you have a particular department, Shepherd and Pumpkin Evergreen, that run 75-80% of the MBAs, the fire chief, given his education, experience, and training and professional leadership development, is going to know that the majority of the money coming in for that, done off of MBAs and the billable activities that we do, is going to be put back into that area, because if it doesn't get put back into that area, he's not going to be providing a good service and product to the community. And then once we see that he's not doing his job and doing what he's supposed to do, then he realizes his job's going to be in jeopardy. So that's not, I don't foresee any problems with that happening. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. But is it probable? No, it's not very probable. So, let's see, where was we before that?
So, and this is my opinion, I could be wrong. So the question is, why should our department cease the operation as a corporation, and why should we transfer all our assets and personnel to the ESD? So I think what they're trying to ask is, instead of going all 100% under the ESD, sign over all the assets, why not do an umbrella where they still have to be their own corporation, still their own entity, but work extremely underneath the chief, have an agreement with the chief. I mean, they already got a chief association that's been doing that. And they're already doing the training, they're already sharing equipment, they're already doing everything that you put out on your slide. So what would be the difference of?
Well, they're not already doing all the things. They are having training, but it is not standardized, and some of it's not even sanctioned. We have departments that absolutely refuse, not picking on nobody. I know a lot of the players out there, and even the players and the chiefs that choose not to participate in the activities and the training. There's departments that don't participate in that training because that training is not sanctioned by state level qualifications and standards and best practices. So there are chiefs out there who feel like that they're doing the right thing by not participating in that, because they don't want their members exposed to something that's not really being done in accordance. We have people that are running and conducting trainings that don't have any professional qualifications themselves. They don't have any instructor certifications or qualifications. And so there's a lot of things that are being taught in some instances and areas that's not really best practices and things that you want to teach. And so moving forward is, why should everybody, the answer here is simple. As far as why should everybody cease operating as their own corporation, because what we said a long time ago, our strength's going to come from unity. You have to buy into it. You can't have your cake and eat it too and be partially in and receive some of the benefits but not put in all the way. You can't say that, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to run this, but any money we get in, we're just going to keep just for ourselves and our areas, but we want to piggyback on the benefits of the rest of the organization. Nothing like that. Nothing works like that. You either choose to be a member and consolidate and to adhere and abide by the qualifications and the standards and the organizational model that we put forth, or you choose to remain a lone wolf.
I disagree with that. If the department wants to sign a contract with the ESD and follow this model, they can. They don't have to dissolve anything. They can be all a part of this model.
Well, there's
Fit in, follow the rules, go with the standards, be inspected, turn all of their inventory. We all see everything, but they do not have to lose that 501.
No, they don't have to lose the 501, but there's going to be one or two different ways they got to do. They can't keep and continue to operate it just as they is without putting themselves in a very precarious situation and being potentially in trouble. That's just a bad idea. If we want to tailor that and sit down with them and find out from Mr. Peeler, who is a lawyer, what the legal ways that they got to do, we can hand it to them at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, when they're out there soliciting donations or doing anything with their donations and they get caught up, they're going to be on their own with it. This is going to, if they turn everything over, I'll tell you the basic bread and butter of why you would turn everything over and deal with it. Because the other day I come up here and the Shepherd Fire Department allowed us to host our meeting here, and their chief staff was two guys that was up here doing the cleaning, working, getting prepared for the meeting, and so on and so forth. So here these guys are running their department from the top down, but they're still doing all the basic level stuff as well as is. Most chiefs out there are already taxed enough as it is to not have the headache of dealing with everything and just have a community member come up and say, I want to donate $10,000 for AEDs. They can just say, sure, no problem. Just fill out this form right here. They turn around, they give it to their deputy chief or their fire chief. You know what? They can go back to doing what it is they do on a normal daily basis and don't have that headache. If they choose, if they still want to have that control over it, but then also be tiptoeing around the law and what's legal and not legal, we can work something out with them. And but if you want to come in, you want to be a part of the organization and receive the benefits of that organization and that structure, then yes, you do have to come in, and there are certain things that you do have to surrender, saying that, hey, I'm not the boss of this whole thing no more. I'm going to come in and I'm going to work underneath the fire chief, the deputy chief, and the assistant chiefs. But then guess what? That they're going to get the luxury of. When things don't go right, it's going to come back to the fire chief.
And they can still follow that structure, having an annual agreement signed with us, where they keep their 501. I'm sorry, they can't have the luxury.
Mr. Peter, we're doing it now.
Well,
We are doing it now.
Well, okay, you have contracts now. Guys, remember, you decide policy.
Right.
Whether it's 3-2 vote, 5-0 vote, I don't care. You set a policy directive, I help you carry it out. From talking with Commissioner May, and please correct me if I speak wrongly for you here, his concern is the contract you have right now, the standards are not being met because there's no accountability. You're saying somehow it will be. You guys have to fight that out. I'm not your referee. If the board decides as a whole, you can stay with the contract model and somehow it's going to change, or the exact same thing is going to somehow change, that's fine. Tell me that's what you want to do. Vote on that at your next meeting. Ryan's saying it's not going to change because for the last 20 years it hasn't. So he's saying we need to change the paradigm. Again, you decide on what the paradigm is. You decide what the paradigm is, I help you implement it. I'm not taking a policy position on whether you should go with the contractor model or the direct provider model. That is for the 5 of you to decide.
And what I'm saying, and no board, I mean, this has been argued not once, not twice, but multiple times, and everybody wants to argue it, but nobody has come up with a solution for it yet. I don't see a way where you can get the buy-in and come underneath the umbrella and receive the benefits of becoming a unified organization and station inside this department, and then completely picking and choosing everything that you want out of it, right down to the legalities of this. There are certain things that you're going to have to give up. Some people look at them as weaknesses, but I look at them as strengths overall of what we have to gain. And to say that it can be done in other ways, I've watched it my whole entire life. I've lived in this community. I've been volunteering here since I was 16 years old. In the last 10 years, I've been on this board, and I've seen just about every angle and every way that the ESD board has tried to make this happen and tried to manage things and tried to micromanage the departments to get them for a more desirable outcome. And what happens this year is we're trying to reinvent the wheel. These things aren't my ideas. These things aren't just something I just dreamed up overnight. This is just something that I've been a part of and I've lived throughout the last 25 years and seen in other areas and been a part of and went to school. This is something that's been adopted long before any of this ever come up without this community.
And we get that, but if we go back to the question, and without getting defensive, is they're asking a simple question: is why should we do this? Why would it make sense for us as for them? And that's why we're asking those questions.
Yeah.
Not because we're saying, hey, don't join up with under the ESD. It just got to make sense for them to say, hey, I want to give up my grant money. I want to give up my potential donation money. I want to give up this. I want to give up that in order to go into this on grant.
Because when you do them things, when you give up your little bit of grant money that you're going to get out throughout the year, the things that we already have and possess and own inside of this district has been paid for by tax dollars, from gear to fire trucks, to money towards stations and everything else. You're going to be able to better utilize that. You're going to be able to fall into a system and an organization that is going to be able to provide a better service to the citizens out there, to provide more training to you, to make you a safer firefighter, or to the people that are in command staff positions right now that are battling and dealing with issues that you just can't figure out what's going on or how to deal with it. We're going to give you the training and the tools and the education to be able to do what it is that you need to do and to combat them issues for not just your department members, but for all the community that we all swore an oath that we was going to get out there and serve and protect. So yeah, there does come some what is viewed as downsides to this, giving up the little individual grants. But that's not saying we can't get grants and still get people here and here.
So Smith, I got
That's not going to be a priority.
I'd like to make a comment,
Yeah, go ahead.
and that is, we have said, I can't count the number of times we have said, we can't tell the fire departments what to do because they're volunteers. We can't tell the fire departments what to do. That's the key word. Now, if we're under this command structure, we have to be able to tell the fire departments what to do. And if they're on their own entity, 501c3, we can't tell them what to do. I don't care what your contract says, because they are their own corporation. At some point in time,
You
they
wouldn't
can,
think they would follow.
listen a minute, just a minute. They can say, "The heck with you, we're doing it our way."
And what do we want a contract for?
Yeah, that's true.
We write a contract to provide them funds to provide service. Okay, that's what our contract says.
And we ask them to follow it, and then they don't. There's a break point with that contract.
And that's right.
Yes, sir.
Amen. So we ask them to do something. And if they say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Didn't you have requirements though in the contract where you specify this is the type of training certifications?
That's a good question. No, I appreciate that question. I know. We're not going to.
Let's stay within the board.
I know. Just I understand that too. We had public comment, but that's a valid question. But yeah, we can come in and we can take a contract that's this big and we can turn it into this big and then right down into that. So we're not even a 503c anymore. And then you have an entire board that's micromanaging. And while that might particularly work with this particular board, but in a year or 2 years or 3 years when there's no longer a board in here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish a fire service and an organization that's going to take care of itself through the years of boards, good boards, bad boards, boards that know about fire and EMS and boards that don't know about fire and EMS. One of the reasons for this right here, and I need to try to think about this to say delicately, is this is for the benefit of the fire departments. So you don't have, no offense to anybody on the board, but you don't have the micromanagement of the board telling the fire departments necessarily how to run their day-to-day operations and things, because they're already at such a level with their qualifications and their standards and their training and the system within itself that they already have all of that information and operate in such a way that they are able to just work with the board to get the things they need to their fire chief and their command staff and their organization structure. I don't really think that it's a good idea that we go in and we start completely just micromanaging every single thing that is done. It's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to set up an organization and structure that is run by a fire chief, deputy chiefs, assistant chiefs, who do this stuff every day, who have more training and stuff than people on the board, and are able to make these decisions to provide the service that the community needs. But we've got to get to this model first before we can turn that over, or else that's what you're going to see. And you've seen it in the past out of this board, and you've seen it from the boards before us, and you'll see it in the boards after us if we don't do something different and we don't unite and come together as one department. We're going to see everybody just doing their own thing, and board members trying to fight in that process to get departments to do what it is that they think they want to be doing. What we need to do is that the board needs to have a trust in an entire fire department that has a head of the department that is qualified and trained, and the people below him are qualified and trained, and they're committed to training and qualifying the people underneath them, knowing that they're taking care of the needs of the community. But you can't get all that by just putting one foot in and saying, yeah, I'm partially in on this, but I'm not going to be in on that. That's not the way that it's going to work. You're either in or you're out. You either want to be a part of the organization or you don't want to be a part of the organization.
So real quick, if you're saying, cool, let's give it to them, you're saying we need to be in full control of everything, but the main question is, the other day, we looked at the EMS, said, hey, we potentially need another ambulance or whatever, and we need another station, but we don't have the funds for this. My question for Smith, do we have the funds to be able to lose billing and donations?
Guys,
hold on.
No, this is important.
I know it's important, but guys, for the sake of this, and especially since we're on
This
TV,
all depends on that.
we got to get through one item at a time.
But you talked for a few hours, so let me do this. Do we have the funds? The other day we said, no, we don't have the funds to do this, we don't have the funds to do that. Do we have the funds to lose grants? Do we have the funds to potentially lose donations and still operate?
Okay. One, we don't have to lose donations.
But we're going to potentially lose. Potentially. That's why I said potentially.
Why would we, if someone wants to donate, they can still donate?
Because people feel prideful when they give it to their fire station. That's why I said potentially.
We are a community. It's like when I got appointed to this board, everybody says, oh, you got to look out for the stations in Precinct 4 and Precinct 4. You got to look out for those stations. No, when I got appointed to this board, I look out for 9 stations. I look out for the citizens of San Jacinto County as a whole. And that's the concept behind this. We are all San Jacinto County. You are in a locale, and the people in that locale, yes, have a community. You know, they have Bear Creek, they have Pumpkin, they have Evergreen, they have Cold Spring, Shepherd, Camilla, 980. They've all got these communities. And the communities are important, and the communities can still donate to that community. So we're not losing that community. All right? So those donations can still be donated and utilized in that community where it's deemed to serve the community by the assistant chiefs, the deputy chief, and the fire chief. Okay, so donations, that's a moot point.
It's not because.
It's not a moot point. I mean, it is a moot point.
But anyways, without donations, let's talk about grants. Do we have the funds to cover all this?
Grants, first of all, it's like he said, we get grants for bunker gear and stuff that we have. I'm with him. I'm expecting to walk into a room and see all of this bunker gear that we've replaced. That every year we seem to replace bunker gear, or we buy tons of bunker gear every year.
Everybody's a different size.
Well, hopefully we're going to get some same size people. But the point being, the point being is that we will have a bigger grant possibility with the community with the county as opposed to the community.
I've been working on grants for the last 2.5 years for the community, and it doesn't look too positive.
Well,
And I'm not
We
trying,
just-
I'm not a negative person about
Okay.
it. I'm a realist.
and as far as the things we get grants for, I think we will have the money to cover it.
Tell me one federal grant that you've seen come through here. One,
I-
just one.
There's also
I
grants.
know, just one grant.
I can't, because I can't specifically name any state
Because we
grants.
haven't gotten any.
There's also grants and things that we haven't qualified and that we will be eligible for. in
And
the
back to
future.
Emmett's third question, money for EMS.
Okay, money for EMS.
This is
Yes.
getting off the topic.
No,
it-
this
we are-
is helping me with my priorities for this
Well,
topic.
I understand that, but that's covered later on in the bottom. So if we can get through this one right here, and I'm just gonna say this, if we could get $10 million in grant and stay individuals, and only $1 million is a unified group, and I'm gonna put my bet on the department that's unified with standards and qualifications, and that's organized, and that has a structure and a vision and a mission. I'll take the department with $1 million worth of grants versus $10 million of individual grants and 10 individual departments, and everybody just doing their own things with no standards and qualifications all day long. I'll take that.
That's good to hear that, because
Yeah.
others should have their options as well. Not just your stance, but their stance.
Well, that's what it
too.
is.
That will
We're here
mold
as a
into
board
this.
that's supposed to be here and decide this, so I get it in the EMS, and we need to bring that up later on. But right now, as far as this right here, we need to try to come up with some sort of stance as an ESD. Everybody kind of talk about it. Although, since we don't have the action item on the agenda no more, we're going to have to revisit this at our next meeting. We're going to have to approve it, and it'll either be a 5-0 vote or a 4-1 or a 3-2. But I guess everybody just gets a chance to say where they're at and to talk about it and discuss it. And then when we're ready to move forward, we'll discuss the next one, and then we'll finalize it together at the next meeting. But if we keep getting sidetracked and taking and jumping in different areas, we're never going to be able to move through 20, 30 something items.
I mean, we get that, but
But like the EMS isn't in here right now. They're their own.
right, I
They're
get that.
in their own area. That's not really pertinent to why each fire department or corporation should cease. And
I mean, it does, because we got to think about the money aspect.
right.
We can't make decisions and say,
So-
hey, hold on.
Go ahead.
We can't turn around and say we can make a solid decision without thinking about potentially losing their grants if we're not going to receive grants. But we do have to think about a stational 59. We have to think about another EMS here. We have to think about it.
Okay.
That's why it is important.
So to stream like this, we'll just go around. I believe I've talked enough. So we're going to go around. We'll start with Commissioner Eldridge. Commissioner Eldridge, why should a department cease operations as a corporation, and why should they transfer all assets and personnel to the ESD?
My personal opinion, they should. I think we should continue the way they've been doing right now with working with the fire chief. They have a corporation. A chief corporation. They've been working hard to make things, and I think that they need to still continue that process of strengthening the standards that we put out. Hey, this is the standards we want y'all to meet if you're going to contract with us. And you need to go out for grants, and you need to do donations. You need to do all this. That's my personal opinion. I don't think we should have them sign everything. That's my personal opinion.
Since you just recently got on this board here within the last few months, and you wasn't here when the rest of this board made the decision, how many months has it been?
Just a few 6.
6 months. So you wasn't here initially when this happened. The board decided to go in this direction. Are you in favor of consolidation between the fire departments and one unified fire department under the ESD?
I'm in favor, and I've made it clear since I've been here. I'm in favor of a unified umbrella fire department, not necessarily for them to give up their corporations. And I think all the chiefs, when I was a chief, that's what we were all under. We were all in favor for that. We wanted to go under pretty much one umbrella, but not give up our corporation.
How would you propose that they could be underneath one fire department and then still maintain their own autonomy and corporation as a separate entity, but be unified? How would that work?
How would that work is they continue doing what they're doing right now. They're having meetings with the assistant chief, with the chief. They're having a chiefs association. They're doing the trainings that have been brought in by the OEM and the fire chief. And we continue that process. It's not a quick process. They've been doing this for maybe 8-9 months now. It's a process. It takes time. It's something they've all pretty much put their pride down to the side and say, hey, we're going to try to do this. And yeah, you may have 1 or 2 departments that not showing up. But again, once they start seeing everybody else doing it and it start work, then they're going to join it too, potentially.
And
That's just my personal opinion.
in the trainings and things that you've seen, and the people running them trainings, would you agree or disagree that it's a disadvantage not having anybody that has any qualifications or standards or certifications that are conducting them trainings?
The trainings I've seen are teach trainings and teaching trainings. That's the ones I've seen them do. I don't know about
as far as basic firefighter or pumper operator.
So we talked about that, and you talked about that. One thing that we could do is potentially, just like some other counties, Rush County's one, they take all the VFDs and they say, hey, if you want to sign up to do your firefighter 1, firefighter 2, we're going to do training tonight at this time, and they'll take 20 members, and those 20 members will work out, do their firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and then once they're done, 20 more members come. And they do a rotation like that until everybody's trained in the county. And it can take 2-3 months.
Who's conducting them trainings? Because as we've seen in the past, we have people that aren't even a firefighter 1 or 2 conducting these trainings,
So
let alone having
Right.
an
So what we
instructor
would do-
certification.
what we do as a board, and we owe it to them, and we should have been doing this, is we sit there, we team up with a college, we team up with a fire school or whatever, or we send our own chiefs or our own people, and we get them certified to do those trainings. That's how.
Do you think that's more of a beneficial way than using a professional department model with a paid fire chief and qualified members underneath that running a fire department with the basic fire model? That
We're going to do the same. We're still going to have to do the same training. We're still going to have to get them trained. We're still going to do the same thing, and it's working for other counties.
The problem is, and I think you would agree with this, is that if we leave it like that, each fire department will have the option and opportunity to participate or not participate in the things they want or the things they don't want to. And that's what we've seen for the last 20 years.
Well, the problem is with that is, like I said, in that county, that is a requirement. If you're going to be on the VFD in that county, you have to go through that training. We've never, as this board, has never put that out there. Hey, if you're going to contract with us, you're going to have this training. That's not on the VFDs. That's on us.
Okay, I want to talk about that real quick. So you say it's on us, and I don't mean this disrespectfully. But as far as the training goes, and what's in the best interest of the actual fire departments and their day-to-day operations and how they run command and their strategies and tactics and their operations, what training or experience do you have, or he has, or he has, or she has, that's going to be able to make the decisions for these fire departments out there, that's going to enable them or put them in a good position to be successful? The question is while you may have a little bit of training, okay, 2 years from now, we may have a whole board full of nobody that has any kind of training.
And this goes back to your point. You asked what training I have. Well, the training that a board needs to have is to be willing to listen to their fire departments, their fire chief, and say, and when they come, hey, this is the training we want. Then us as a board, the only training we need to have is to be able to trust the fire departments and the fire chief and say, if this is what you really need, then we need to be able to provide those funds. That's for that training, and in the past we haven't done that.
No, we have. That's exactly what we've been doing for the last 20 years. Is we've been letting the fire departments run how they want to run, and we've been taking that for granted. And that's why we've had the training issues that we've had. That's why we've had accidents and injuries.
We've never
and
set a
equipment
standard.
failures.
As a board, we've never set a standard.
We're not qualified to set the
Thank
standards.
you.
We're not trainers.
So you're not.
I'm not
okay.
a fire department trainer. I don't know what training
So
exactly.
let me ask you a question. You're still never going to be trained. But you want to go to make them answer to you, your words. They need to answer to us. And you're still not trained to make those decisions.
No.
The
Let me
fire
tell you
chief
what
needs to
I'm-
answer
Let me
to
tell
us.
you
We
what
got it. That's my point.
what
to you. There's no difference. We listen to the fire chief.
the fire chief works with his deputy chiefs with all the different.
Then what's the difference? You're trying to make a difference. There is no difference.
There is a difference. It's accountability.
Yeah, if they don't sign over their assets and do the legal steps necessary, then they can't fall under the organizational model. If they don't fall under the organizational model, they don't fall under the command of this guy that we're paying to oversee these
Mr.
things.
Taylor,
And
is
if he
that true?
can't
They don't
oversee
fall
them,
under the organizational model? I don't believe that's true one bit. Is that right, sir?
I didn't understand the question.
How would people in an independent agency fall under?
They're following the same command, they're following the same structure, the same rules. They're doing what the chiefs are asked to be done by this contract.
No,
If they do that, what is the problem?
I don't
You
think.
gotta have some trust.
I don't,
Well, that-
I don't
that's
think
right
you
now, your
understand how
contract
the,
doesn't
I
say
don't think you
So
have
let's,
understand how the
so
model
what you're
works.
saying is we write a contract that says every chief and every department must do what the fire chief says.
They've already done that with
No, no,
their
no, no,
last.
no. The contract says
Okay.
the department must do what the fire chief says.
What is wrong with that? He's
Well, what
following
is wrong
the
with
command
that?
we set forward.
You want to have something more particular? I don't know what that.
Okay, so whatever the fire chief says for you to do, you have to do it.
Sure. As long as it
Period.
doesn't get me injured or get me hurt. Absolutely.
Period. Whatever he says do, you will do it.
I think that's happening now.
But that's not an independent contractor.
Now,
The main test for an independent contractor relationship is command and control. If the ESD is commanding and controlling, then it's not independent. That's the law.
Well, no.
They're not, yeah, if we're in
Not on
control,
ICS, not on ICS.
they can't have a contract that says they're in control. They're 501(c)(3).
But you would put out a standard in your contract. You say, hey, this is the standard we want to see. This is what we would like to see. But under the ICS model, that's like saying if the police department don't fall under the fire chief, then he has no control. Well, no, if he's the instant commander, he's in control.
Well, no. I'm sorry.
That's correct.
You're specifying ICS versus what she was asking about the contract. It's not the same thing.
But for command
Following
structure,
someone on a scene is not the same as doing what the department the chief wants as far as the contract. If the chief says we're going to standardize all of our bunker gear, I'm just making this guy up, guys. We're going to go with the XYZ brand, their Model 4, and you say no, I think XYZ brand sucks. We don't want that. That's not ICS. That's absolutely nothing to do with ICS. So you're making a very broad distinction there.
And what
Michael Smith is saying the district needs to be able to say, no, we are going to go with XYZ brand Model 3, so I can budget for that. It's consistent. I can do a big order for that and get the better pricing instead of each department saying, no, I don't want XYZ. I want ABC. I want CDE. I want FGH. And again, you can do that.
So, a few months ago, we put out on the board, said if you want gear from us, you have to use our specs. Have we not done it already?
Yeah. Did everybody do that? Did everybody do that?
I don't know.
almost everybody.
No,
I'm to be honest. I don't know.
Almost.
almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and atom bombs. But the fact is, not everybody did that. So not everybody is running standardized gear.
We just put that in place.
And guys, we
No,
can
it
do
was,
this as a
we
board,
put
and we
that
can
in
make,
place, it's been done since
we
then.
can make this contract 500 pages long, but you're still not gonna get the benefits and the unity without the consolidation.
So, anyways, you asked me a question. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going around the table.
Yeah.
So,
And it's right, that's all on us.
Yeah.
So, and we're trying to make things better, and this is trying to make things better.
Right. So you're agreeing with the organizational chart and the consolidation? And that they're either all in or all out? Okay. Mike?
You're either in or you're out.
I agree.
I'm still sitting on the waiver. I would like them to have that 501c for a period of time.
They can still
I would
have
like
it.
this done over a period of time, not overnight.
Well,
period of
it
time could be
hasn't-
2 years,
We've
3
been at
years.
this 18 months.
Well, we've also had a fire chief for a year and a half. So
Right, so you can't have both ways. You can't say
we
slow
should have moved a
down.
lot quicker and did not do it.
We shoulda, woulda, coulda, okay?
But that's I don't understand what your stance is, because it seems to me that it's contradicting. You're saying we should have already had it do it or had it done.
I'm saying slow down. We need to do this slowly. And I'd like to have them have their 501s at least until September, when the Forest Service gets their money out. Yes.
Nobody said that they couldn't keep their.
And there's no
501
time frame
receipts.
mentioned anywhere on this to have all this
Why don't
done.
you shout it?
Well, right, because the model the outline right now would be you're assuming you be bringing the departments over in stages. I mean, if I can ask a question, and Commissioner Eldridge, if I'm misinterpreting your question, Mr. Smith, about the grants and stuff, is it possible to get a good handle on, I want to make sure I'm saying this right, the kinds of grants that departments currently get that go towards operational expenses or that free up money for operational expenses? Because your concern seemed to be, and please don't make me wrong, was that without, if the grants were pulled out completely, let's say starting in fiscal 26, just make that up, fiscal 26, no more grants through the Forest Service and VFDs. It sounds like you're saying you doubt the district fire department could operate. Is there a way we can get a handle on how much money on a year-to-year basis comes in through those grants, which makes operation possible?
Pretty much.
Curtis of Denise.
Okay, but where's the other side of the coin, though, that without these you couldn't operate? Where the question to Mr. Smith was, without these could we operate? He said, I think we can. You're saying if these all were taken away, would the district be too broke to operate? And I'm sorry, I'm trying to blend a lot of the different questions, and I don't mean to step on toes. Commissioner May's concern was there may be efficiencies gained instead of 9 departments going out for all these grants to continue to be able to run, that under one organization you may potentially have efficiencies which mean you don't need all those grants.
That's my understanding also.
So I haven't seen it. What number?
It's all grants.
Right, that's great. No,
2016.
You know, I understand the stance on behalf of the grants. Right now, the way that we're operating, it's only a matter of time. Right, so far, it's just been equipment damage and loss and missing equipment, things like that, and embezzlement and so on and so forth. But what happens when that equipment doesn't hit a truck and it hits a person? All the grants and all those. Yeah, sure, it can. There is loss of life with professional standards and qualifications, but the risk for loss of life is so much greater when you don't have qualifications and standard and the right type of training and the right type of organizational structure. It's exponentially higher. And that's not just an assumption, that's not an opinion, they are historical facts. If you look at all the NIOSH reports that are out there, it's never just one thing that caused the loss of life. It was multiple things in a row. And it's just a matter of time, something like that, God forbid, but it's something like that, it's a matter of time that's going to happen here if we don't do something about it. And we have to give a little bit in order to be able to get what it is that we want to achieve. And if we want to, go ahead.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Yeah.
One problem that's going to have to be addressed no matter what model you guys choose, if you continue to contract with the individual 501Cs or under the ESD fire department, when the grant was received for several departments, we literally had people being fitted from a wheelchair for grant bunker gear. It was money that was being absolutely wasted through these grants. So that has to be figured out, because we can get 15 brush trucks, which is great, and we can get 20 sets a year, but if we're fitting people who can't fight fire, they're literally in a wheelchair getting fitted, then that's a problem. But the second thing is, with the contract, you guys told them they had to have 4 hours of training per volunteer. That's what y'all told them in the contract. The individual corporations came back and said, no, we're not going to do that. We don't want to require 4 hours. So y'all changed the contract to say that it's just optional that you train your members. So if y'all can't get a grasp on that contract, somehow, some way, then the 501 thing is really scary. But if you can and can figure it out, whatever. I'm just saying we've got problems within the contract.
And so, yeah.
Everybody being 501c3s, you have the cart driving the horse. You know, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
And from nine different directions, driving the
Well,
horse.
it's 7 now because we've had 2 departments, one that's already signed and then another one that's ready to sign now, that have already worked past that, and they're good with the benefits that they're gonna gain from coming onto our department. So that's 2 departments. I have no doubt that the rest of them we'll be able to figure that out, because as a board, we're just gonna have to take this one to a vote eventually, and then see where that goes, because it still sounds like we have a couple of different board members on different pages as
So
far
quick
as
question.
where we're at. What's that?
So, and this is this, so we got, like you said, 2 departments, right? So let's say we have 3 or 4. And because the way it sounded, and I know you probably don't mean it like this, by no means, is that if they don't join up right now, then forget them. But if we only have, let's say, three sign up right now, and everybody sit back and watch how it goes for a little bit and see, wait, and all the other departments wait benefits. Oh, this is working well. It's not working well. Then we can kind of work that out. Use them as a model, basically.
Like a pilot program.
Yeah,
Well, this is kind of how it was rolled out and how we talked about it 18 months. And that's why if you look back in some of my earlier PowerPoint slides, we talked about transition teams and in phases. And it was never meant for us to, we're a volunteer board. We meet once a month, sometimes twice, but now we're meeting today and we don't have the opportunity to make any real decisions. But it was never meant for all departments to join at once. In a perfect world, and if it was moving fast and you know, a lot faster way, this would already been over and done with 6 months ago, a year after taking on the endeavor and a year after hiring the fire chief. But we are moving slowly.
If everybody did it at the same time, Mr. Fiedler's entire firm would have to be working on it to make it happen.
Yeah, and we'd have to pay a lot more money to his firm too as well. So we'll move on with that one, and when we have to address it again, we will, and we'll probably address it again when we meet specifically. Each department's going to have their own needs and their own idea about the trees, and the ones that don't, we'll have to talk about them with individually. If you're not coming to the table and scheduling a meeting, we can't really talk about it and decide. So moving right along, what happens to our station fund, fundraising, grants, activities, auxiliary volunteers? We've kind of already talked about this. How will individual station leaders be selected in the future? Under the model that we've presented here as a board, and this is where you'll get your chance to decide whether you agree with that model or not. That's where the board as a whole, minus the one that just come on board, decided back in the day or talked about as far as what our vision was and why we was hiring a fire chief to begin with. But the intent of the majority of the board, as Mr. Peter said, is that the ESD fire chief would be at the top of the command staff. And the ESD fire chief would report to the board. The ESD fire chief would select other members of the command staff based upon the SOPs to be approved by the ESD board. Obviously, each station needs a command structure. However, it would be more likely in municipal fire departments where the chief selects command staff based on their experience and competence, rather than being an election by members. This respect is intended towards any VFD chiefs, but some ESDs have seen instances where the selection of chiefs was based solely off of popularity, or whose dad formed the department, or what family has the most members in the department, rather than competence. This has resulted in unfavorable outcome in some instances. This has happened in our county. We have it, and we've had it in the past, and we'll continue to have it in the future unless we adopt this other model that we're trying to go to.